Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When Russia invaded Ukraine, it destroyed Ukraine's internet and its telephone access. And to help get Ukraine back online, SpaceX, one of our defense contractors, donated satellite internet terminals called Starlink. And this allowed Ukrainian soldiers to run apps to target Russian forces and to be able to communicate with loved ones back home. Earlier this month, I wrote to DoD about Russia's use of Starlink terminals. Reports indicate that Russia has been able to buy Starlink terminals on the black market and that SpaceX has not cut off their access, and that provides a major advantage to Russia on the battlefield. Now, SpaceX is owned by Elon Musk, who has advocated for, quote, a peace plan, close quote, that reports suggest may have been developed after speaking with Vladimir Putin. Congress has a constitutional responsibility to make sure that taxpayer money does not go to companies that undermine U.S. national security goals. So I think it's critical that we get to the bottom of this. Mr. Hill, you oversee our space and missile defense, and you've been working with SpaceX to counter illicit use of Starlink terminals. Let me start by asking, was SpaceX completely cooperative with DoD in its efforts to address the use of Starlink terminals by Russian forces?
Senator, not only has SpaceX been very cooperative with the entire United States government and the government of Ukraine, they've been forward-leaning in identifying and bringing information to us.
Good, good. I'm glad to hear it, because it's obviously critical that DoD contractors aren't undermining U.S. foreign policy. So Russia's outdated communications have been a major contributor to their failures in Ukraine. Starlink obviously would be enormously valuable to the Russians. It would provide Russia with secure communications that they sorely need, which would significantly erode Ukraine's advantage on the battlefield. And I understand this is classified, an unclassified environment, so I don't want to go anywhere where we shouldn't. But I think there's a compelling public interest to conduct this oversight and to understand how DoD is plugging leaks here. So, Mr. Hill, in the broadest terms, can you describe how you worked with SpaceX to address this illicit use?
So in broadest terms, recognizing that Russia has longstanding experience operating black markets and is now leveraging black markets of their own. We have one point, the Commercial Integration Cell. This is a cell at Combined Space Operations Center where commercial companies and the U.S. government can work together and can share information, including company proprietary information and classified information. That's one point where we can learn what's going on. They can share with us what they're seeing. We can share what they're seeing. Broader across the government, we can then develop strategies. Is it better to identify all the terminals that should be left on, or should we identify terminals that should be turned off? Different types of approach to lists. We've done that with them.
Okay, so let me ask this maybe a little more pointedly. Do you have confidence that moving forward, DoD can identify illicit Russian use of Starlink services and completely shut them off?
I think this will be a continuous problem.
I take that as a no.
I think we can continue to identify them and turn them off, but I think Russia will not stop it.
Okay, so you think it's going to be an ongoing process? You know, war obviously is an unpredictable unfolding, but we shouldn't have to worry about whether or not U.S. contractors are supporting our adversaries or giving access to our adversaries. And my understanding is that Space Force is negotiating an extension of its Starlink contract with SpaceX. So, Mr. Hill, can you assure me that as you renegotiate this contract, that you will have provisions in place that will require SpaceX to do everything within its ability to prevent illicit use by Russia and other forces?
Our contracts, in conjunction with the licenses that regulatory agencies provide, and that's, DoD doesn't control those, together they ensure what you're looking for. And SpaceX complies with our contracts, and they comply with the licenses they have from regulatory agencies who can enforce those licenses and the various civil and criminal.
Well, okay, I'm not quite, I just want to make sure I'm understanding, and I get it. We are in an unclassified setting here. The devil is always in the details. I taught contract law for many years. So I would ask you to submit to the committee the conditions that give you confidence that SpaceX is bound contractually so that it will prevent illicit use of those terminals by Russia. You know, I just think it's critically important that DoD hold its contractors accountable for any mismanagement or any illegal acquisition of its hardware and services by bad actors. And we just want to make sure that Russia's not getting an advantage here.
And in responding to the letter that you mentioned at the
Yeah.
outset, we will be addressing those kinds of things for you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Indeed.